डर कब महसूस करती हो?
जब मैं अकेली होती हूँ, जैसे मेरे हॉस्टल में, मेरे रूम में।
What is up, amigos? Hope you're doing awesome. Have you ever watched something that didn't scare you with shadows or screams, but with the weight of truth? Where the silence in a room was louder than any ghost, where a creaking floorboard felt less disturbing than a casual stare, where the horror wasn't what was imagined, but what's lived by millions of women in India every single day. Khauf isn't the kind of horror that jumps out at you. It creeps in slowly through public buses, through hostel corridors, through the walls of a city that watches everything and says nothing. This is not about a ghost story that frightens you for a night. This is about the kind of fear that becomes a routine. The kind women carry in silence while the world calls it normal. And that's where Khauf lands its deepest blow. It doesn't scream, it stares back. And if you're truly listening, it will haunt you long after the screen fades to black. So Madhu is a girl from Gwalior who comes to Delhi hoping for a new beginning after a traumatic past. She moves into a working women's hostel and is assigned a room 333. But the moment she enters the hostel, something feels off. The corridors are quiet but not peaceful. The walls feel like they've seen things in Delhi. Delhi is not a city in this show, it's a presence, a looming shadow. There's one scene early in the show that tells you exactly what you're about to experience. A woman on a crowded bus, a regular commute, a regular day, and yet something happens that leaves her traumatized. What follows is horrifying, not because it's fictional, but because it's all too real. Khauf is a psychological horror, yes, but it's also a social horror, and the fear it explores is very real. There are 4 women inside the hostel: Riya, Shukla, Chumdarang, Priyanka Sethia, and Rashmi Man. Each of them carries a different pain, but there's one thing in common: they've all emotionally shut the outside world. None of them leave the hostel not because they can't, but because they're too scared to. Each character reflects something chilling about the world we live in. A lifetime of bullying, prejudice based on region and appearance, being told not to speak, not to resist, not to move, being scared of a family who's against the birth of a girl child. These aren't scripted horror elements, these are lived horrors, woven together by the creators with stark clarity. There's a moment in the show where a character's mindset reminds you instantly of the Nirbhaya horror, not because it's a recreation, but because the very thinking, the justification, the entitlement, it's the same, and that's the true terror. Not just what happened, but how many people still think like that. The show's strength also lies in its casting, and every actor earns their place. Monika Panwar is extraordinary. Her portrayal of Madhu is quiet, fierce, vulnerable, and terrifyingly believable. Riya Shukla, Chumdarang, Priyanka Sethia, and Rashmi Man offer equally gripping portrayals. Each woman represents a voice we've all ignored for way too long. Rajat Kapoor's character starts off quiet, mysterious, and borderline suspicious, but gradually he becomes one of the most unsettling forces in the series. He runs a spiritual healing clinic in Old Delhi, Ruhani Dawakhana, tucked away in a haunting, decaying building. There's a scene where he talks to a child through a rusted window grill, his face hidden in darkness, only his hands gripping the metal. It sends a chill, not because he shouts, but because he doesn't. This is one of Rajat Kapoor's most atmospheric and eerie performances in recent times. Controlled, precise, and haunting. You would wonder if he's the same man who brilliantly played a military intelligence head in the recent Sudhir Mishra series, Tanav. Shilpa Shukla brings razor-sharp intensity, while Geetanjali Kulkarni, in yet another pitch-perfect performance, adds layered emotional weight to the narrative with the complex mother-son bonding she has with her son, a son whose character is as chilling as the haunting lonely streets in Delhi winters. Shalini Watts as the hostel warden is unsettling in the best way. You're never sure if she's a protector or a part of the problem, and that's what makes her so brilliant. And Abhishek Chauhan, a consistently underrated actor who's previously worked with Monika Panwar in Mast Mein Rehne Ka and delivered stellar work in Kill the film, Cubicles the series, and Undekhi the series. In Khauf, he once again proves his range and restraint, fitting into this disturbing world with ease. Even the supporting villainous roles, so often played loud, are handled with chilling quietness in Khauf. These are not monsters in literal sense, these are monstrous men you probably walked past in real life without even realizing. That's what makes it worse. Visually, Khauf is suffocating, and that's by design. The walls are peeling, the tiles are cracked, the colors are drained, even the sound design is sparse. There's no heavy background score forcing you to feel. You just feel. The horror is not in what jumps out, but in what stays behind. In a hostel room, in a kitchen, even in silence between the roommates. Everything feels like it could just break physically or emotionally at any time. And it's brilliant. The cinematography by Pankaj Kumar doesn't create horror, it captures it. You feel Delhi's weight, its history, its secrets. There's one sequence involving the protagonist stuck in muck, fighting with her fears, and a visual representation of trauma that might just be one of the best metaphorical horror moments ever done in Indian OTT. You'll know it when you see it, and you'll remember it long after. Writer Smita Singh, who is also behind Sacred Games and Raat Akeli Hai, has written a show that doesn't try to please you. It demands your patience, it trusts its characters, and most importantly, it knows exactly what it's trying to say. Each of the 8 episodes is around 40 to 50 minutes, and while it's slow, it never drags. The suspense builds gradually, not from what you don't know, but from what you can't admit. It uses horror tropes, sure, flickering lights, creaking doors, shadows in corners, but here's the difference. They're not used to scare you. They're used to represent fear that already exists. Fear of being blamed, fear of being alone, fear of never being believed. By the end of Khauf, you might not remember every scare, but you'll remember how it made you feel. That tightness in your chest, that discomfort in your gut, because this isn't a story about one haunted room. It's about all the places where women feel unsafe. On the bus, at work, in relationships, in their own homes. And maybe the worst part is they've learned to live with that fear, like background noise, like a constant shadow. Khauf isn't here to lecture you, it's here to haunt you. And if you're truly listening, it will. If you appreciated films like Tumbad, Pari, or even Bulbul, where the horror is more symbolic than direct, I strongly urge you to watch this brilliant creation of content. Maybe one of the best we have ever seen in recent times, or maybe ever on OTT or elsewhere. And if you have already, let me know what stayed with you, the horror or the reality behind it. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if this video helped you feel something or think differently, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's not just watch shows like this, let's reflect on why they need to exist, because sometimes the scariest thing is realizing we've been okay with silence all along. I will leave you with a prose which comes from the protagonist at the end of the series and leaves you with a thought that would linger in your mind for a very long time. Na संग है साथी ना नकाब, बस अकेला है तू, कितना बुज़दिल निकला और मैं सारा विष पीकर भी यही हूँ तुम्हारे लिए तैयार.